Yes, good evening. Hello everyone. How are you guys doing? Hope you guys are doing well. Yeah, we're going live. We're about to go live. We are going live. So I'm gonna wait for you guys to join in on the broadcast and we get it all started out because there's plenty of moving pieces in as far as transfers are concerned, in as far as you know uh, football news is concerned, going into the weekend, and then things of that nature. So I think for purposes of testing our audios, we are good to go on that front. Just waiting for you guys. Just waiting for you guys to join in on the broadcast and we start today's conversation because there's plenty to talk about. There's a lot of news going around. Real Madrid are leading the rest to sign Dean Housen. Then we do have reports. Kai Havertz has returned to first team training, and then of course we do have news on foreign vats. This one we spoke about earlier on in the morning. Then again, the debate rages on. Benjamin Sesko versus Victor Gyökeres. I'm bringing you some statistics on the two players that Arsenal fans seem to be divided upon. Then Real Madrid and Man City are caught up in a bidding war for an AC Milan player who we spoke about in the morning hours. So please join me on this broadcast and let's discuss it all. Let me wait for you guys to join me on the broadcast and we get the conversation going because there's really plenty for us to discuss as far as this evening is concerned. And then, of course, Arsenal's injury concerns do rage on. Those ones continue. Leandro Trossard and Declan Rice being the suspects here. So, really, then there's news that Chelsea are set to, stick with Enzo Maresca next season, regardless of what happens, whether it's Champions League or not Champions League football. So, welcome to Sakos is my name. I'm streaming live from Kampala, Uganda. Thank you for me and kindly like the broadcast. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing to the channel and help support me grow this channel. Help me grow the channel by clicking that subscribe button, by also liking the broadcast. But it's really good to have you here on the broadcast. Do let me know where you're joining us from, what country are you joining us from, what city are you in, what's the time that side, and anything else that you may wish to let us know. But welcome to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert K. Sakos is my name. So guys, kindly like the broadcast, but also let me know where you're joining us from. As I wait for you to let me know where you're joining us from, I want to send my shout outs to Okoyo Amlen, much appreciated for the love and support. I want to send my shouts out to Belson, Emma Belson, they're from the UK. I want to send out my shouts to Habib Nasser. Thank you so much for the love and support. I want to send my shout outs to Anu from Singapore. Thank you so much for the love and support. You are with us during the earlier broadcast in the morning, and all those usual suspects that usually join us for our live broadcasts. So today it's about 9:25. So this broadcast did kick off about 9:20 p.m. East African time, but it's good to have you all. So anyways, we'll start things off at Chelsea, where Chelsea bosses are saying they'll be sticking with Enzo Maresca regardless of whether they qualify for the UEFA Champions League or not, whether they win the UEFA Conference League or not, in which they are in the finals and they will be facing off with Real Betis from Spain. they will be sticking with Enzo Maresca. Now, this comes in the wake of news that AC Roma, the Italian giants, who are currently under the interim charges of Claudio Ranieri, was pulled out of retirement to come and help AC Roma. They are looking for a new manager, and they were pointing fingers at Enzo Maresca as their potential coach. Of course, we did have rumors that some people in the Chelsea hierarchy do think that there could be need for a managerial change in a not so distant future, and that kind of thing. So that's where the news emanated from. And then moving to Arsenal, there's a big injury concerns at Arsenal because the reports do indicate that Declan Rice's injury is feared to be hamstring just as much as that of Leandro Trossard, who was subbed off in that 2-2 draw again between Arsenal and Liverpool at Anfield on Sunday. So the fears are that those two are suffering from hamstring injuries. They may not be as pretty strong or bad as, for example, the case was with Kai Havertz or with Bukayo Saka or Gabriel Magalhaes, but those are the reports that we are getting, and I do not think that Mikel Arteta or the club would want to risk them having a bad summer or pre-season. For example, usually when a player gets injured at the tail end of the season, they are forced to stay with the club even during their supposed to be off period for the summer, to stay at the club and continue with their rehab and that kind of thing. For those of you that do remember, I think Hector Bellerin and Rob Holding, when they suffered their ACL injuries, they had to stay at London Colony and go through, rehabilitation, while other players had broken off for the summer. And these are players that have played a lot of football over the last couple of years who need that much rest. They really need that rest. So them, in case you want to force them into playing and exacerbate their injuries, you could cost them the summer, the much needed rest that they need to get, but also you could do damage to yourself because they may end up missing out on pre-season, which is really, really important in regards to your preparation for the following season, which will be of 2025-2026. So anyways, we'll wait to hear more from the Arsenal medical team. I think Mikel Arteta's pre-match press conference ahead of their game over the weekend against Newcastle will come on Friday afternoon. So we'll get to hear more from the manager in that respect or in that regard. So, but that is not good news really for Arsenal and knowing that Declan Rice and Leandro Trossard will be absent. They're already short with numbers due to injuries, but of course Declan Rice missed that game against Liverpool. But I think it makes their problems even much bigger because Arsenal really, really need to win against Newcastle. Want to ensure UEFA Champions League qualification, but also, to determine where they really finish on that Premier League table, if it is of any importance to them as a club, and which I do think that it is. So, and if Newcastle win their final two games, one of them being against Arsenal, is that they get to finish in second place. So Newcastle finishing second place, and also at the back of winning the Carabao Cup, then clearly what a tremendous job Ed Howe would have done. But even if he doesn't finish there, he still has done a very tremendous job this season. So still speaking matters, Arsenal, Kai Havertz has returned to full team training with the Gunners. We did see images of him at the Emirates Stadium where they did have their training session, I think earlier on today, and we saw him being welcomed back by his teammates. Usually they do that kind of canopy tunnel, in which a player that is returning from injury or a new player walks through the players as they sort of pat him or slap him in a way of welcoming him back. So Kai Havertz has returned to fast full team training. I cannot sit here and tell you that he will start the game against Newcastle. In any case, it will be a huge risk because he's not kicked a ball in the last 3 months as far as competitive football is concerned. So that's not to be expected. Anyways, so that's that on that front in regards to Arsenal news and injuries. Then the other news that we ought to speak about again is all to do with transfers. Real Madrid are leading the race to sign Dean Howson from AFC Bournemouth. The 20-year-old Spanish defender has attracted a lot of interest from Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Arsenal, Liverpool, as well as Chelsea, but Real Madrid are leading that race to sign the centre back. Now, according to latest reports, is that Real Madrid have moved to, Real Madrid have, and this is according to Fabrizio Romano, is that Real Madrid contract proposal in players' hands now. Sorry about that. Real Madrid have sent formal contract proposal to Dean Howson and his camp today. Talks ongoing to sign the Spanish centre back. Negotiations continue while Chelsea, Arsenal, and Liverpool remain ready to enter the race. In case of complications, Real remain a player's priority. We've spoken about that quite extensively, and in addition to that, he says that the ball is now in Dean Howson's court to decide whether he does accept the contract proposal that is being sent by Real Madrid's representatives to see whether they can strike a deal for the 20-year-old Spanish centre back. So Real Madrid also talked to Bournemouth about £50 million release clause structure and installments. The player has been clear during meeting on Monday. His priority is Real Madrid. That's according to none other than Fabrizio Romano. So, and he says something quite important there is that, and the reason as to why I said Real Madrid are leading the rest is that the player wants to go to Real Madrid. It's up to him agreeing with the club, and then also Real Madrid agreeing with AFC Bournemouth on the structure of those 3 installment payments in regards how they are set and in what kind of periods. If they can agree on that, then the player will be as good as a Real Madrid player. But Liverpool, Arsenal, and Chelsea are lacking in the background there. If there is any complications, any of them will be willing to strike to try and sign the young centre back. But also, amongst those 3 is that Chelsea have the upper hand because his representatives, that's Dean Howson's representatives, do have a very good relationship with Chelsea. It's not to say that they have a bad relationship with either Liverpool or Arsenal, but at least that of Chelsea has been reported to be in much better. It's a case of best friend versus other friends with somebody in that respect. And then still speaking matters transfers is that Eric Dyer has become a new AC Monaco player from AFC Bayern Munich, and he's done a clip on social media in that regard. Then Xavi Simons. Xavi Simons is a player that has been talked about really a lot over the last couple of, I think, 2 years. Of course, he was a PSG player, then at a point on loan to RB Leipzig, where he went on to be signed, then and that kind of thing. So he was also, I think, at PSV. He did play for them a bit, I think. So Xavi Simons' decision has been made. He's ready to leave RB Leipzig this summer. Plan confirmed as reported in the recent months. He's ready for new chapter with top Premier League clubs, and Bayern Munich all attentive to his situation. RB Leipzig are aware of the players' plans. So that's there again for the taking. And then still on transfers, Jonathan David is, like we spoke in the morning, he will be leaving Lille at the end of the season. That's pretty much confirmed. He does have a proposal at his table from Napoli, but we cannot say it's the only proposal. We are not aware of any proposals from any Premier League clubs, despite interest that was reported from Chelsea, Arsenal being mentioned in that conversation, as well as Manchester United. But we'll wait to see how that goes on in the coming weeks. Then briefly at Tottenham Hotspurs, manager Ange Postecoglou will be without Bagville, will be without James Maddison, as well as Dejan Kulusevski. for their final against Manchester United next week on Wednesday. That's on Wednesday, 21st at San Mamés in the UEFA Europa League final. So that's also news in there. Then the other still maybe, and this is just coming in from Ben Jacobs of excuse me, yes, Ben Jacobs, who does write for Give Me Sport. He says, breaking, Real Madrid have informed Bournemouth they are willing to meet. Then Hausen is a £50 million release clause. Talks ongoing with Hausen over contract terms, as Fabrizio called it. Hausen keen on Real Madrid deal. So I think maybe Premier League clubs should turn now their attention to Jarrell Hato, who we did again speak about in the morning, left-footed centre back, but also can play at the left back position there at Ajax. Then Real Madrid and Manchester City are caught up in a bidding war for AC Milan midfielder Tian Regenders. That's the Dutch international, 26 years of age, who has scored, I think, 15 goals across all competitions, 10 of those coming in the Italian Serie A, as well as 4 assists. He's now he's predominantly a central midfielder who plays as a number 8, but can also play in a deeper role. Manchester City are interested in signing him, but Real Madrid are pretty much in that race as well. It's reported that both sides are bidding about 70 million euros for the player. So we wait to see how that will pan out. He's a player we spoke about in the morning. And then of course, so he's a very good player, by the way, a player that is over at 26, you're well within your prime. He's had a very good season at AC Milan. And remember, Manchester City are looking to sign so many midfielders, and because they do expect Bernardo Silva to leave, in addition to Kevin De Bruyne, who is already on his way out. And while they did renew or extend Ilkay Gundogan's contract, is that they are willing to listen to offers for the German midfielder. Then Real Madrid are also in the race to sign Florian Wirtz from Bayer Leverkusen. Now, Bayer Leverkusen, under ideal circumstances, would want to keep Florian Wirtz for an extra season. But they do face a lot of interest in their player from Bayern Munich, from Manchester City, and Liverpool, who have just entered that race, because Liverpool, that's according to David Ornstein, they made inquiries about Florian Wirtz. And this is what David Ornstein had to say. Liverpool make contact with Florian Wirtz camp to express interest in signing the playmaker if he leaves Bayer Leverkusen and is keen on moving to England. Liverpool admiration long-standing but unclear whether 22-year-old plans to exit Bayer Leverkusen or Germany. That's the other thing there that is being reported in relation to Florian Wirtz. Like I said, in the ideal world, Bayer Leverkusen would want to keep him for at least an extra year. But if they are to sell, it is reported that they are demanding for a fee of about 150 million euros. That's approximately about 126 million pounds. Now, neither of the 3 clubs that are leading the interest in the 22-year-old German international have they ever paid any money in that region for a player. It is only Man City who did pay 100 million pounds for Jack Grealish to sign him from Aston Villa. Now, 126 million pounds would be a British record fee. That's to beat the standing record of Moises Caicedo's transfer from Brighton and Hove Albion to Chelsea, who was signed for about 115 million pounds. 2, Bayer Leverkusen do not want to sell to Bayern Munich, and I do not think Bayern Munich would be willing to spend 150 million euros on a player, just a single player. Remember, they've been interested in signing Dean Howson, but they cannot make that deal happen or make a move before they make some player sales. Then they are also signing Jonathan Tah, who as a free agent from Bayer Leverkusen, who is leaving Bayer Leverkusen to join Bayern Munich as a replacement for Eric Dyer. Again, we spoke about him in the morning hours. Then then still, so Bayer Leverkusen would rather sell to English clubs as opposed to selling to their rival in Bayern Munich. So that's what gives the advantage to Manchester City and now Liverpool, who have formerly entered the fold. Also, yesterday, Havertz and his parents, his dad, who is his representative or his agent, and his mom were in Manchester to discuss a potential move. That clearly tells you that at least negotiations have reached a certain level between the two camps. That's Havertz's camp as well as that of Manchester City. But it also communicates something that, because usually for players to make these kinds of trips, they have to get a green light from their parent club. So that means that Bayer Leverkusen get the green light for Havertz to travel to the UK to have those kinds of discussions. Now, whatever the discussions were, remains to be seen, but it is being reported that Manchester City are not willing to pay 150 million euros, but they are willing to start their negotiations at around 100 million euros. That's approximately 85 point something million pounds. So again, we wait to see how all that will transpire. But Liverpool have just entered the race for the German playmaker, who has scored 10 Bundesliga goals and provided 10 assists at least by the time he had made 29 appearances in the German Bundesliga this season. So that's quite also important, really important for us to note. Then who else do we talk about in relation to transfers? Because there's plenty of news really going around. And I mean, we cannot get enough of them. There will always be more. There will always be more. Then it was also reported that Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta will have at the very least 100 million pounds to spend this summer. But like I told you, 100 million pounds, although it may sound like a lot of money, but it may as well be a drop in the bucket to a certain extent, because what will really happen is that they've spent that amount of money on a single player in one window. That was on signing Declan Rice. So that's what really tells you that given the player requirements that Arsenal do have up until this stage, preparing themselves for the summer and next season, then that money will be so little. Then maybe the other news at Arsenal is that Sevilla will not use their buy option on Albert Sambi Lokonga, so the player will be returning to Arsenal after a season-long loan. But also, Lazio will be exercising their buy option of about 9 million euros to buy Nuno Tavares, who other Italian clubs like Juventus are really interested in signing. And it is reported, there are some reports making the rounds that as soon as Lazio exercise those buys, then they will be selling him out immediately, because there's strong interest in from Italian clubs, and that means that Lazio sign him maybe at about 9 million euros, and then they do a markup to maybe of 18 to 18 million euros, and then sell off the player. So that's the expectation in that regard. Then Arsenal are also willing to listen to offers for their midfielder Fabio Vieira, who has spent the season on loan back to his parent club at AFC Porto. But I mean, it remains to be seen if there is any club there that will be even willing to offer Arsenal, even 20 million pounds. Now, on the issue of Declan Rice's injury, I must note that it was reported that his appeared to be hamstring injury is not too serious. That's the thing, and you will see him in some images or even video clips of Arsenal in training. Now, whether he was in full-blown contact training, that I cannot say with absolute certainty, but at least we saw images of Declan Rice in training, even with the reports that he does feel a bit of pain in his hamstring. So again, we'll wait to see how the situation evolves. So if by the time we get to the weekend, he's in the matchday squad, it will be good news for Arsenal, but also do not be surprised, because at least his is less serious. His injury concerns are less serious as compared to those of Leandro Trossard. So That's what I wanted to point out before we move on to other news in as regards to transfers. Then let's see, maybe yes, okay. We've spoken about Florin Vats, we've spoken about Tinhausen, we've spoken about Enzo Maresca, we've spoken about then maybe the other important thing to note was that Serena Williams' husband, that's the Reddit founder, bought a 10% stake in the Chelsea women side of football. That's the club, for about £20 million. That deal did, happen. So again, we'll wait to see. And anyways, let's move on to the biggest raging debate that's especially amongst Arsenal fans before we get to engage in any other news as may come through. But here's the thing: is that Arsenal fans are torn between signing Victor Gyökeres or Benjamin Sesko. Now, like we spoke in the morning, the primary ideal target would be Alexander Isak, but that deal too expensive for the club at the moment. Unless something changes between now and the end of the season, and also in the summer changes the context of everything, and then maybe Arsenal move in for him but even when they move in for him, they'll have to compete with Liverpool to try and sign the player. But let's speak about the players whose transfer fees are quite plausible to Arsenal, or to what Arsenal can afford at the moment. And we're talking about players. For example, Victor Gyökeres is, according to, I think, Daily Mail, it's reported that it could cost Arsenal about £60 million or slightly more. And that's right, almost about the fee that it could cost a club that wants to sign Benjamin Sesko from RB Leipzig. So around 62 to maybe £68 million in fees in that region. So now, Victor Gyökeres, 26 years of age, Swedish international, pretty much like Alexander Isak, is a late developer or a late boomer, because when you look at his track record as compared to Benjamin Sesko, who, by the way, Benjamin Sesko is 5 years younger, is that Victor Gyökeres is really a late developer or a late boomer, because in the 2020-2021 season, he was at Swansea on loan, where he scored only 1 goal. I think he was there for half a season, and then he moved to Coventry in the same season and scored only 3 goals. That's for the 2020-2021 season. That's for the second part of the season. Then Coventry decided to sign him, and that's for the 2021-2022 season in the Championship. He scored for them 18 goals in his first full debut season as a Coventry player. And then the following season, that was 2022-2023, he scored 22 goals for Coventry, and also guided them to the playoffs, in which they lost. Of course, they lost the playoff finals to Luton Town. They lost that on penalties, and they stayed in the Championship. And that's the season he then left Coventry to go to Sporting Lisbon. That's for the 2022-2020. So sorry, for the 2023-2024 season. Now at Sporting Lisbon, he scored 43 goals. That was last season across all competitions. And then this season, he so far scored 52 goals across all competitions, with 38 of those coming in the league, plus about 23 assists in 100 appearances. Now, so you can imagine 52 goals and 43 goals in a space of 2 seasons. That's a goal contribution of about 95 goals. 95 goals in just goals alone, plus 23 assists. He's really smacking it out there. He's really smacking it out there. And his numbers, in comparison to those of Benjamin Sesko, are really, really much better, significantly better than those of Benjamin Sesko, who did have himself had a loan spell at a club called Leife Ring. That's where he spent the 2020-2021 season and scored 21 goals. Then in 2021-2022 season, he scored 11 goals at Red Bull Salzburg, and then in the following season at the same club, he scored 18 goals before moving to RB Leipzig. Now remember, Red Bull Salzburg and RB Leipzig are under the same ownership, although in different countries. So in the 2023-2024 season, that was last season, he scored 18 goals across all competitions for the German outfit. And this season, he has already improved that by scoring 21 goals in all competitions. So that's so when it comes to numbers, that's really significant, or that's a significant difference. And like I said, Victor Gyökeres is a late boomer, while Benjamin Sesko is more of a developing player. He's still a developing player. So it depends again largely where the club will settle. According to Sky Sports, they've not really zeroed down on the primary target or key option, but again, we've spoken extensively about Andrea Bata's preference for Victor Gyökeres, while Mikel Arteta is said or is reported to have a preference for Benjamin Sesko. That's it for that comparison for the Arsenal fans. As you formulate your opinion about which striker you really want to see at your club, about which striker you really want to sign, those are the numbers for you to compare on. Personally, for me, I've had really mixed feelings about who the club should sign, and I've ended up saying that whoever they sign is the one we will support, and we hope that it does really settle into the team and bang in the post. As long as he doesn't, he doesn't go on to be given the shot 9, which is currently with Gabriel Jesus. I do not know, and I remember we spoke about this some couple of years back. There's something wrong about wearing Arsenal's number 9 shirt. Of course, rest in peace, Jose Antonio Reyes, one of those players that have won it at Arsenal. I think Maroon Chamak wore it at one point. Things really didn't click for him. Then you had Alexander Lacazette wear it. He had a bit of a downgrade performance compared to what he had done at Lyon when he wore that shirt. You've had Gabriel Jesus wear the shirt, and look at him. His numbers are not really that impressive. He's gotten so many injuries and that kind of thing. So for me, if there's any shirt number that I would ask an Arsenal player to stay away from, would be that shirt 9 jersey, and leave it to maybe Manchester United, leave it to Chelsea, leave it to Liverpool, leave it to all the other clubs that may have better fortunes with the number. But anyway, those are sentiments. There's reports from Mail Sport. This is from Mail Sport that Mikel Arteta is already planning to deploy Kai Havertz as a roaming second striker behind Victor Gyökeres in a 4-2-2 formation. Now, I do not know what kind of formation that would be or that would look like, because I mean, you play with a back four, a double pivot, and then you play Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka, and Kai Havertz and Gyökeres. How would that really play out? Anyway, we'll wait and see. That's all still speculation because they've not yet really signed the player yet. So we'll wait to see. Again, Arsenal fans, I would be interested in hearing from you over the weekend, given the injury concerns that you do have. Who would you rather start between Ethan Nwaneri and Raheem Sterling? And for me, this I say without fear of favor or without any ounce of doubt, any day, anytime, I would start Ethan Nwaneri, because I think Raheem Sterling will be remembered as a player who wore an Arsenal shirt and did nothing in it. Because in any case, I do remember a couple of so many seasons back. Arsene Wenger went and signed a player who Kim Kalmstrom was even injured at the time he signed him in a January transfer window, and I think he scored a penalty either against West Bromwich or Birmingham to knock them out of a cup competition. I think the FA Cup before I think the Arsenal went on to face, was it Wigan? I do not remember exactly, but at least Kim Kalmstrom was remembered for scoring a penalty. But Raheem Sterling, I'm sure Arsenal fans will struggle to remember what they will remember of Raheem Sterling should once the season ends. Then Fabrizio Romano is saying that he understands that talks between Liverpool and Jeremy Frimpong's camp over personal terms have advanced again today. Player is always been keen on the move, and Liverpool are progressing on salary, length of contract, and every detail of the agreement. A deal is close. And again, Jeremy Frimpong is one of those is one of the players we spoke about in the morning in the morning session, because Liverpool are looking for a right back replacement in the wake of Alexander Trent-Arnold, who will be leaving the club at the end of the season. So that's why that's the news from Liverpool. So I'll hang on here a bit longer to hear from you. Wait for your questions. If anybody has any questions to any latecomers, yeah. But at least that's the conversation. But while we wait for the latecomers to join the broadcast, do not forget Manchester United are also still in the race for Matthias Cunha. They're really trying to get that done. Then Arsenal do hold in Newcastle's Anthony Gordon, but they've also monitored Ebeleki Easy, 26-year-old at Crystal Palace. I think has scored 7 goals and provided 8 assists in the Premier League this season. As far as his numbers go, we did see him score a very brilliant goal against Aston Villa in the semi-finals of the FA Cup. That was at Wembley, while Ismail Sarr scored the others. The other 2, it was a brace for Ismail Sarr. Then who else did we want? Can we mention in respect to your transfers? Yes, the other name that is really been highly mentioned in recent days has been Rodrigo Goes, being linked with a potential move to Arsenal. Now, there are reports that the player is willing to leave Real Madrid, although we wait to hear more of that at the end of the season, possibly. But those reports are largely coming in out from Spain and less from England, so they're not emanating from Arsenal journalists that are attached to Arsenal in the UK. They are emanating more from Spain, so we'll wait to hear on that. Then Chelsea and Manchester United are still well within the rush to try and sign Liam Delap. That's the 22-year-old England international from Ipswich Town. We all know that Ipswich have already been relegated. Then apparently Manchester United have held conversations about Antoine Semenyo, who is priced at about 70 million pounds at AFC Bournemouth. Attacking midfielder, can also play as a wide player. We'll wait to hear more on that conversation. Then Adam Wharton at Crystal Palace, we've spoken about him before, is of interest to Manchester United, as well as Bruno Guimaraes. But just like the way it is for Liverpool and Arsenal in their pursuit for Alexander Isak, Manchester United's pursuit for Bruno Guimaraes could really quickly hit a dead end should Newcastle qualify for the UEFA Champions League, or even not, because Newcastle are in a much better position today as compared to Manchester United. So there's that also to think about. Martin Zubimendi, I think Arsenal and the player as well as Real Sociedad are simply waiting to cross the T's and dot the I's, unless something really late comes in and changes the player's mind. We all know that Real Madrid and Liverpool have held strong interest. Man City did hold interest in the player and that kind of thing. And Nico Williams, There's not been really much said about him in recent weeks, but he remains of interest to Arsenal as well as Chelsea. They've really monitored him. They're really interested in signing him. Liverpool, it is reported that are willing to extend Luis Diaz's contract. I think he's 27 years. Remember, it had been reported that he could be one of those that may exit Liverpool alongside Darwin Núñez at the end of the season. But from what we are getting from the Liverpool echo is that he could be handed a new contract. And then Joan Garcia is the only goalkeeper that has been linked with a potential move to Arsenal. Then Arsenal are also interested in signing Andres Santos. That's a Chelsea player who has been at Strasbourg on loan this season. Chelsea did sign him in January 2023 from Vasco da Gama. So that's also news there. And then, of course, Chelsea will continue to monitor Ekitike as among their striking options, while Arsenal have been also linked with a potential move for Bilal El Kanous. That's the 20-year-old Moroccan international who plays for Leicester City. Some of you may have seen him over the weekend in Leicester's 2-2 draw against Nottingham Forest. Speaking of Nottingham Forest, we did speak about Taiwo Awoniyi, who was placed into an induced coma to speed up his recovery following an operation. He did crash with the post in that 2-2 draw against Leicester City. So that's really the gist of the conversation in as far as transfers are concerned. Somebody is asking whether this would be possible at Arsenal. Zubimendi, 50 million pounds, Gyökeres, 60 million pounds, Nico Williams, 50 million pounds, Xavi Simons, 68 million, Mosquera. Now, Mosquera is a centre back at Sevilla who has been linked with a potential move. Is a Spanish centre back who has been linked with a potential move to Arsenal at 20 million pounds, and Joan Garcia from Espanyol at 25 million pounds. That's a total of 273 million pounds. I think Xavi Simons would have fixed the second striker option as well as the winger, but also more the striker. Then Nico Williams, a winger, Gyökeres, striker, Mosquera, defender, Joan Garcia, second goalkeeper, Martin Zubimendi, a midfielder. I do think there should be room there for another creative midfielder. And for me, that has to be somebody like Rancheki, somebody like Ohai Sunset, Alex Bainer, or any other that the club may identify with that respect. And then somebody comes back with an outlay of about 546 million pounds. Jesus Christ. He says Zubimendi 50.8, Joan Garcia 25.38. This is in million pounds. Gyökeres 63.45 million pounds. Gittens, is it Jeremy Gittens from Borussia Dortmund at 50 million pounds. Xavi Simons at 68 million pounds. Rodrigo Goes at 75 million pounds. Andre Santos at 42 million pounds. Dinhausen at 50 million pounds. Milos Kakes at 45 million pounds. Mark Gay, I think that's the centre back from Crystal Palace. But why would Arsenal sign two centre backs in the same window? At 16 million pounds, and then Lemons at 15 million pounds. And then he says out goes, and I think these are not really possible that they will happen. But he says William Saliba 120 million pounds, David Raya at 60 million pounds, Jakub Kivio at 30 million pounds, Fabio Vieira, who I do not think that any club will be willing to pay 30 million pounds for him, as well as Zinchenko for 30 million pounds, respectively. There, and that's a net of 276 million pounds. So 546 minus to 76. That leaves, that means that comes to an outlay of 270 million pounds in net spend if Arsenal were to distribute their finances that way. But I do not think Saliba is a goal zone and David Raya at the moment. So that puts about 180 million pounds off there. And I do not think there will be Arsenal can get 30 million pounds and for Vieira and Zichenko respectively. I really don't think so. Then then there's a youngster in Max Downs from the Arsenal Academy, really being discussed highly at Arsenal, but he's still 15. So, anyways, but guys, if Manchester City get foreign VATs and Rejan and Tijan Regenders, that will be a game-changing thing for Manchester City, given the kind of players that they already have. Remember, they signed Kusanov in January, they signed Omar Mamouche, they signed Nico Gonzalez, holding midfielder from FC Porto, and then they signed Victor Reyes. Yes, Victor Reyes from Paramides. So that will be a game changer. Anyways, it's been good to have you on the broadcast. But for those of you that are interested in learning, for those of you, excuse me, yes, guys, do you know that you can get digital skills like coding, web design, cybersecurity, which are in very high demand on the global market? Yes, you can get those soft skills. Quite very important. Web design, cybersecurity, as well as coding. Very important skill sets. Yes, you can get them from Ebo State. That's they're based in Kampala. They do offer both in-person and online digital skills training sessions, career guidance, and help their members find jobs in the dynamic digital space. So do check them out. I'll leave their link down in the description so that you can check them out for those of you that are interested in getting digital skills like coding, like web design, cybersecurity, and those kinds of skills. You can get them from Ebo State, and even after training you, they help you find a job in the very on high demand market there globally, especially when it comes to things like cybersecurity. Remember, we're in that information age. AI is developing, and web design, e-commerce, things are really moving fast in that direction. So those are skills that could really come in handy if you do reach out to Ebo State, and you'll get a 5% discount off their charges. But you can always check them out. I'll leave down the link in the description of this broadcast so that you can check them out. But it was nice having you guys. Thank you for being with us. For those of you that have been with us the longest, your efforts are much appreciated. Those that do watch our broadcast much later, when we've already signed out, we do not take your time for granted. Continue to subscribe, continue to like our content so that we can continue to grow. Let's meet again tomorrow morning and have another discussion when it regards to football transfers and any other news that may be making the rounds in the world of sport. Otherwise, have yourselves a blessed night for now. Bye-bye.